Welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. Well, while the vast majority of American workers need flexibility at work, less than half say they actually have it. Our next guest is helping bridge the gap to attract and help employees from fluid work hours to tuning in remotely. Joining us now is Annie Deach, is the co-founder and co-CEO of Werk. Annie, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
What are some of the most common issues that employees face when it comes to flexibility?
That's a great question. So when we're looking at flexibility, we're talking about a new way of discussing it. In the past, we've talked about work from home. We've talked about words that tend to have a lot of implicit bias in them. So we created a new type of flexibility classification system that embodies time and location-based modifications. We have location independence, remote, location variety, desk plus. Micro agility is the ability to step away from your desk from 1 to 3 hours. Travel light is less than 10% travel annually. And by far, we see the most in demand is the concept of location variety. And this can be a really important thing for people who are looking to solidify their commutes, who simply need maker time.
So how does Werk come in, basically, and try to help bridge this gap?
Great question. So we are a flexibility insights and data company. We use data to help companies work smarter. Companies were talking to us about the fact that they knew they had a work-life balance problem. They were hearing in their engagement surveys this issue and demand for flexibility. And so we needed to quantify the problem for them and tell them their flexibility gap score. So we go in there and we assess a company's need for flexibility as well as their access to flexibility to produce something called a flexibility gap score. Not surprisingly, most companies have an enormous flexibility gap score today.
Is this more important in thinking about attracting and retaining talent, or is it more important in terms of productivity? What are the
Great
benefits?
question. There are enormous benefits. So in the past, companies have viewed flexibility as sort of accommodation for a few and looking at it as a way to solve a very discrete issue. The reality is flexibility is not a nice to have. It's a key driver in 6 key areas. Productivity is one of them. The retention of many different employee demographics is another. Talent attraction, diversity and inclusion initiatives, and frankly, real estate costs, as well as healthcare premiums. So it's a complex issue that is having enormous benefits for companies.
And you've partnered with WeWork as well to help in this. How
That's
has
right.
WeWork helped you in this?
So WeWork, we started as a single hot desk in the Irving Place location on the day that it opened, and now we're a team of 13. Flexibility is obviously a core part of our culture and DNA, and the fact that WeWork really embraces the concept of flexibility and allows us to flex up and down our space has been a critical part of our operations.
When you're analyzing these different companies, what's
Yeah.
one common thread that you see that pretty much every company that you look at has to do?
Well, it's interesting because 1 out of 2 employees is saying they're going to leave in the next 6 months if they don't have access to flexibility. So I think every company needs to start getting serious about flexibility as a key strategic opportunity. We need people to adopt the classification system that I was talking about before. We need companies to start collecting data so that they recognize what an impact flexibility can have. And then they need to start making better decisions on the basis of this flexibility data that's in their wheelhouse.
We have historically low unemployment right now.
That's right.
Meaning that workers are starting to have a little bit more power. We're not seeing that with wage growth necessarily, but
Right.
we are seeing with with the idea that workers are confident if they leave their job, they can find another job.
That's right.
How has that made what you do at work different? How has that changed your narrative or changed just
Right.
how you're working?
Well, it makes the workplace environment or the talent attraction environment much more competitive. I think a major trend in HR right now is the concept that employees expect a workday experience that is more aligned to their experience in their consumer life. They expect customization, just like on their iPhone, they have their favorite apps, they have recommendations from Spotify. Why don't they have a job that is adaptive to their skills, motivations, and needs? And so I think that it is an imperative for companies to start addressing, what that employee experience could look like through a more adaptive or flexible workday.
What are the liabilities associated with flexibility at work?
That's a great question. Historically, flexibility has been driven by bias. And I think that we talk a lot about the fact that the reason why flexibility isn't a line item on every single major Fortune 500 today is because in the past we've looked at this as a way to simply accommodate, for instance, women who are caregivers. I think adopting a new language and actually putting data against this is a really key part of moving beyond that bias and beginning to look at this as a strategic opportunity that helps people work better. And we can sort of discard the liabilities that we've experienced in the past.
And what are some of the companies that you're partnered with?
So some of our awesome FlexMatch customers, which is our flexibility insights program that defines your flexibility gap, are amazing biotech companies like Agios, a marketing firm that is incredible like HubSpot, many different startups, lots of pickup in the Fortune 500, which has been amazing to see and sort of beyond our wildest dreams.
Well, I feel like biotech might be an industry that I would think of where flexibility might be a hard thing.
Flexibility, it becomes increasingly important because if you think about biotech, you have to get through an FDA cycle. You need your employees to stay with you for a period of 10 or more years in order to push your work all the way through. So, companies come to us for a variety of different reasons, but in biotech, we see retention really being a key driver of their work with us.
All right, Annie Dean, co-founder and co-CEO of Werk. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Coming up, guys.